What up? This is your boy, DoBoy, and this is another installment of Sober Saturdays. What is Sober Saturdays? You should already know because we're on like the umpteenth episode. This is an episode where I sit down and I break down my life of sobriety from alcohol, and I've been starting to bring in different guests and things so we could talk about our lives and all things sober. You know the deal. You know why you're here. You know the vibes. Today, I have a very, very special guest. This is a woman that I have recently met, and we actually share the same common interest in sobriety. She is celebrating over 31 years of sobriety, and we're here to talk about her story and all things. Please make some noise for the beautiful, illustrious, the one, the only, the woman, the myth, the legend, Regina Scott. How you doing today?
I don't know about all that, but how you doing, my friend? How you doing?
You doing okay?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really well.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm nervous, as I told you. So.
You don't need to be. We're just two friends having a conversation. That's all it is. So, we're talking about the, our path to sobriety. But what I always like to do with my guests when they come in, I like to get a feel, and like the audience get a feel of where you come from, kind of like a little bit on your background in life, and then we can kind of get into how you got into alcohol, how you realized it was an issue, and then, how you ultimately took control of that and said, hey, no more. Enough of it is enough. So to give me a little bit of your background, you're not originally from California, no?
Well, the minute I open my mouth, you're going to know that I am not originally from California. There's a southern accent at play.
Yes, I hear that.
I was raised in the deep, deep rural South.
Okay.
In the 60s and 70s because
gotcha.
I'm 100, so I go back a little bit. I go back a minute. But I grew up outside of Augusta, Georgia, in between Augusta and Atlanta.
Gotcha.
In the 60s and 70s. And unlike most of the kids that I grew up with, I could not wait to get out of there and get to the bright lights in the big city of the ATL. So,
all right. So you didn't really like the country life so much?
There were aspects of it that I really liked. Mm-hmm. And looking back on it now, I have so much gratitude that I had that experience. I grew up in farm country and agricultural country.
Gotcha.
So there's a peacefulness that comes with that. There's a harmony that comes with that, for me in harmonizing with nature. And I'm a big animal activist, even farm animal activist to this day, probably because of what I grew up seeing in, corporate farming communities back then.
Gotcha.
And so I'm really grateful that I had that bit of grassroots childhood kind of experience.
Okay.
But I'm a Gemini and have two sides to me. So getting away from that, barn and those horses and those fields of sugarcane and getting into the big city, because that's where all the boys were.
Oh, so you were ready to go see the boys.
I was ready to go meet some boys and drink some liquor.
So tell me a little bit about your family life. Now, was it a two-parent household the whole time? Did you have any siblings? Where did you land in the sibling hierarchy?
Yeah. I always prayed for siblings because I had a crazy upbringing and crazy household. In the 70s, most of what I learned and came to understand about what moral compass and what societal norms and what life should look like came from watching television. Mm-hmm. And so in my household, if you were on the outside looking in, it looked like that stuff on television. It looked a little bit, Leave It to Beaver.
Right.
My dad worked. My mom was a stay-at-home mother. And we wanted for nothing financially. And dinner was on the table. You could set your watch every night, 6 p.m. My dad was never late coming home. We always had dinner as a family. It was the Ozzie and Harriet life.
Okay, and it's just mom, dad, and you?
Mom, dad, and me, and the dog.
And the dog. Okay, gotcha.
And that's the way it looked unless you pulled the curtains back.
Okay.
And when you pulled the curtains back, what you had was just an alcoholic, insanity-fueled, violent household that you could not tell anybody in the outside world about because we had to keep secrets.
Wow. Okay. So was both parents were drinking, or
both parents?
So you seen this pretty young.
Very young.
Okay. And when it was around the first time that you decided that you wanted to partake?
Yeah. And I just want to clarify too and say that nothing about my story for me is steeped in any kind of victim consciousness.
Gotcha.
There are points of fact that happened.
Gotcha.
There was violence in the household. That's just a point of fact. I do not consider myself to be a victim of an abusive childhood.
Okay.
Now, it took me years to work through that, but where I stand today, there's no victim consciousness. I'm not making anybody wrong. There's no blame for my parents. God love them. They did the absolute best they could at the time with what they had to deal with. And in my adult brain, I can understand that. I can understand a mother that grew up in war-torn Germany having trauma.
Right.
Having a brother killed. And that, I can understand a father that escaped poverty to join the army only to be drafted into World War II and then be captured and held prisoner for 15 months in a German Stalag camp. And so I can understand with compassion in my adult brain everything that led up to them not being able to manage their own trauma and having to do the self-medicating that they had to do. Because, this was the 70s.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think, there's a lot of credence that, like me and my dad as well, you know what I mean? We have a great relationship now.
Yeah.
Didn't always have that, you know what I mean?
Right.
But, I could kind of understand, you know what I'm saying? When you're a child or like when you're growing up, you just kind of look at your parents and you kind of almost put them on this pedestal, like, you know what I mean? And so, I don't know if it was my expectations or what it was of what, parents should do, but I just almost expected perfection, but then getting older and then, becoming a father myself and being able to understand and, it makes sense to me. So he and I now have a much better relationship that I can understand, as a man now, different things that he might have been going through, different things with mental health or alcoholism and just different things in, his life. So I definitely understand. So yeah, thank you for, absolutely, clearing that up for us.
Yeah. I mean, as a child, I only knew I hated them and I hated it and I wanted out.
So you wanted out of there. So when was the first time you tried liquor and what was the circumstances?
It's funny. According to my mother, the first time I drank any liquor, I was like 3 and I downed her scotch and water when she turned her back for a second to go in the kitchen.
Oh, wow. Early start?
Early start. I have no memory of that. But I can remember having small cocktails that were child-sized portions that my parents gave me because European-oriented family.
They would drink wine, right?
A little wine mixed with lemonade.
Okay.
A little bit of beer on a special occasion with a meal.
So it wasn't necessarily alcoholic behavior, just more of cultural practices.
Right.
Okay. So this is going on when you're, 6, 7, 8-ish age?
Exactly.
Okay.
Pina coladas at Christmas when I'm 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 with the rum.
Really?
Absolutely.
And this is normal?
In my household, it was considered to be okay if it was only on special occasions and in small quantities.
Okay, so you weren't getting lit.
I was getting lit because they thought it was small quantities because they gave me a small quantity. But they're doing what they do at the party.
So you can always sneak off and get a little bit more.
And who's going to know when there's pictures and pictures and pictures of this stuff sitting around? Who's going to miss another 8 ounces, 10 ounces? And at that young age and at that body weight, 8 ounces is all it took.
So you were out here getting lit.
Ooh, I was getting lit.
So what was the youngest age you remember being drunk at?
Drunk at 12.
Okay.
Blackout alcoholic at 13.
So this was accelerated.
Oh, boy.
So now did the drinking go from being a fun thing that you kind of could do at the family functions to now it's something that you're doing by yourself or maybe with friends or like what's the...
all of the above.
Okay.
So, I can remember at first it was just fun because I felt like an adult. I felt like I was participating in what adults participated in, and that elevated me from a child, which in my household was to be seen and not heard, and sort of a lower status member of society, children, only the dog was lower in status than me, because the dog had to be seen and not heard from outdoors.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'm feeling 10 foot tall and bulletproof, when I'm drinking because I'm one of them. In my mind. This is all in my mind.
All up here.
All in my mind. And, I had my mom's cigarettes that I would not light in front of them, of course, but I would pretend smoke. So I'm pretend smoking the Salem menthol while I'm for real drinking the pina coladas, and it's on and popping. In my mind, I'm having a great time, Right. And I'm going into my room and shutting the door with the little strobe lights and the Bee Gees album, and I'm blasting everything at full, and I'm pretending like I'm in the club.
Right. This is just it's turn up.
It's turn up.
And about what age is this? Is this about 13, 14-ish now?
12, 13, 14, 15.
And you're
whole
blackout
realm.
drunk and you're drinking on a regular basis.
Absolutely. I mean, my parents used to allow us to go roller skating on Fridays and Saturdays. So we would get dropped off, and I'd pretend to go in the front door of the skating rink. But really, I went around the back with my buddies.
And got drunk.
Because we had a fifth of Bacardi White.
Y'all was drinking the hard stuff back then?
Yeah.
Now, were you getting into any trouble? Like, how's school? Like, how's every other facet? Like, are you a good student?
Student.
So you're still you're a functioning teenage alcoholic.
A student. And at 15, when I was taking the Xanax, the Librium, the Valium, and chasing it with the Bacardi White, I was still an A student, but I was skipping a lot of school.
So how did you get into the Xanax and the rest of those drugs that you just named that I never heard of?
Well, when your dad is a former POW getting treated for PTSD at the VA, there's a cabinet full of all kind of stuff.
And you're just taking it, mixing it with the booze.
Right. Sometimes by the handful, not understanding exactly how I woke up. And there were times that was sort of the point. Let me just take a handful of this and maybe this time I won't wake up. And that's kind of, when I was drinking at that point, I was really going for oblivion. Heart and lungs.
Yeah, because that's interesting that you say that. So you're saying that you would go to sleep sometimes and just be like, I hope I don't wake up?
Kind of pissed off when I did, yeah.
So just that, and that's just with just dealing with life, kind of how things are going at home, and it's just not going the way that you see it fit.
Yeah. I didn't understand these things then, but with, there's a lot of therapy, a lot of whatever. I have an acupuncturist that actually diagnosed me, interestingly enough, with childhood PTSD as an adult. She treated me as an adult 12 years ago, and she said a lot of the conditions that I have, the visceral ways that this trauma shows up in the body, and I'm 57, so we're talking about it's been with me now for a minute, right?
Okay.
She said what you've got going on in your internal organs and in your nervous system is the residual of the childhood PTSD.
So it's like a physical thing that comes from things that happen as a child?
Trauma.
Wow.
Yeah. Check out a book. I can't remember the author, and I may have the title a little bit backward, but if you Google this, it'll come up. Something like The Body Keeps the Score.
The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
Okay. So it talks about what you're talking about.
Yeah,
like
the experiences that we have, the body and the organs, it holds it. Unless we get some sort of treatment like somatic therapy, or there's different types of therapy that can help release hell, I've done yoga classes and just burst into tears, the most embarrassing thing in my life.
Really?
And talked to the yoga instructor after, and it was a particular pose that we would do that was really stretching deeply, IT band and glute muscles, and according to this yoga instructor, and I can't explain it to you exactly now. She explained it, I understood it, but I can't reiterate it. Those particular muscle groups hold X, Y, and Z in the body, right?
Right.
And when we did those deep, deep, deep stretches on those specific parts of the body, whoo, the tears just came.
Really?
And I thought, I'm a freak. And then I started reading up on it later. I'm not a freak. I'm just experiencing some of the somatic healing that we can experience with our body if we have someone to coach us through it.
I was doing yoga back in the day, and I was having some positive effects on it. I think I need to go back to it. I think now, plus since I'm, newly sober and, celebrating, what I'm saying, my 53rd day.
Woo, 53 days.
So,
yes,
maybe
53 days.
maybe I need to, get back in there. I was doing a heated yoga too.
Okay.
Where you would hold those poses and it would feel impossible. But then when you would finish, you would just feel like you just conquered the world. Yeah. So now the high school experience, you're drinking, you're drugging a little bit, but you're still a straight A student. Yeah. You're still keeping up appearances for the outside world.
Right.
But something's going on because you're going to sleep and being like, I don't really want to wake up all the time. So you get through high school. So what happened? What's the next thing after high school?
I graduated early so that I could get the hell out of there.
You were really on top of things.
I was just wanting out, man.
Okay.
I mean, I knew I was living a life of insanity and insanity all around me. I just didn't know how to language that, and I didn't know what to do about that. And so for me, in my mind at the time, child's mind, 18, 19, come on, kid, right? Flight was the only thing that I thought would be the cure.
Okay.
And what we know about trauma is fight or flight.
Right.
And my dad was Green Beret Special Forces. I'm going to tell you right now, there was going to be no fight.
Right.
There was going to be no popping off to that man.
Right.
He's trained to kill you.
Right.
and you'd never hear it or see it coming. And he used to threaten it with us all the time. So I would just take whatever I felt like I wanted to say and swallow it down and mentally prepare for flight.
Okay.
I was going to get the hell out of there.
Right.
And graduated early, got out, found a gal I could be roommates with, and interestingly enough, and I didn't plan it this way, but her condominium was right behind the Holiday Inn that had the best bar in town, Adams Lounge, and it was popping every night of the week.
It was popping?
It was popping every night of the week.
Are you still in Georgia at this time?
In Georgia.
So, but you just move out. You got a roommate.
Yeah.
And now you next to the most littest bar. So now it's going up every night. It's going up. On a Tuesday.
That's right. And it was that respectable crowd, you understand. It was that white-collar professional going after work, having a few drinks. And they had this lovely food buffet, you know, that with a 2-drink minimum, you could eat all that you wanted to eat. And I was poor.
Right.
In fact, in the South, we have 2 classes of poverty. There are people who are poor, which means they're a little bit down on their circumstances, and then there's po.
Po?
And when you po, you a whole nother kind of poor.
Po.
You are scraping the bottom of the barrel when you are po.
So you guys were po.
I was.
Just po.
Yeah.
But you were out by yourself, and you didn't have to deal with what was going on at home anymore.
That's right.
Okay. But now you're drinking.
Drinking.
Okay.
But I'm a girl.
Okay.
In the 80s.
Okay.
In a white-collar bar. I didn't have to pay for those drinks.
So.
And because it was a 2-drink minimum to eat, I didn't have to pay for that food either.
So you just partying for free.
So I'm just partying for free. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, then were there any negative experiences that are happening during this time, like outside of the blackout drinking and, you know, just the occasional mishap that all professional drinkers have? Like, is there anything that's starting to happen, like, maybe this ain't what I should be doing?
Yeah, you know, there's the outward stuff and the inward stuff, right? So outwardly, the auto body repair shop made a fortune off of me. Because I ran cars through fences, I ran them into ditches, I put myself in some near-death automobile accident situations. Only by the grace of some power that's greater than I am do I sit here today. You know, I can't tell you how many times I had alcohol poisoning, and looking back on it now, given the physical symptomology I was having at that time, but not knowing what it was. But knowing now with my adult brain what those symptoms are and how severe they were at the time, again, don't know how, you don't have another guest in this chair right now. A lot of near-death experiences, I think. So some force other than me wanted me to still be here, you know. And but that's the outward, you know. And I'd get written up on my job, you know, for poor performance. I was getting awards for peak performance and then written up for poor performance, and then awards for peak performance and then written up.
So you were kind of like the good and the bad, the yin and the yang.
Yeah, because I was a really bad binge drinker. I was not at that time an everyday drinker, and so the everyday drinking would come later.
Okay. The
binge drinking. So my boss at the bank once said to me, you know, you're the best employee that I had. No, he said, Regina, you're the best worker I have when you work. Because during those periods of sobriety that might be 6-8 weeks, maybe 3-4 months, I was on my game. And then when the binging would kick in, man.
So you're saying that there were some points of sobriety. So there were some points where you were just like taking breaks. Was it because you're taking breaks because you thought it was a problem, or you was just like, I'm just gonna not drink for a few weeks?
It was a problem, and I'd find other ways to work out my addiction. So it might be with my roommate at the time was a bodybuilder. She and her boyfriend. So I'd go to the gym with them. I have no business trying to be a bodybuilder. I don't have the type for it, the body type for it. But I would go with them and do I ate what they ate. I did what they did. You know, I kept the schedule that they kept. And so I worked out at the gym alcoholically.
Wow.
And I was smoking a lot of weed at the time. And when I wasn't using the alcohol, I would be
you said you worked out at the gym alcoholically.
Yeah, I did
Say that to me again, because that kind of went over my head.
Yeah.
Like an alcoholic would do, like
with no kind of balance, you know, like that. I heard a friend of mine say one time, and I cracked up laughing, and then I thought, "Fuck, that's me, man." You know, my friend one time said, "The only thing that I know about moderation is it's that fine line I'm going to cross when I'm going from one extreme all the way to the other." And that was how I lived my life.
So if you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it all the way. Cause I'm trying to low key get to that space. That's why I'm asking you. Cause I'm just like, ever since I went sober, I done put on like a little bit of weight, and I'm just like, why can't I get addicted to something like the gym? But I'm assuming that has its pitfalls too.
Well, yeah, because you're supposed to have days of rest and whatnot.
Right, you're not supposed to just do it every single day.
That's right. And there's physiological reasons for why, right? But in my brain, in my alcoholic mindset, my case is different.
Right.
Other people might need that one day of rest in between working, your legs and back one day, your arms and whatever the next day. But I'm Regina Scott. I don't need that.
Do you feel like as addicts or recovering addicts that our minds are just wired like that, like just to go to the max on everything? Because I feel like I have balance issues, and it shows up in every area of my life. It shows up in my drinking life, in my eating life, in my dating life. Like I go 0 to 100 in relationships so fast. So I'd be thinking like, are we just wired like that sometimes, like to do too much?
I can't speak for others. I can only, obviously, and I know you're not asking me to, right? Only speak for myself, and for myself, I'd have to say, hell yes, because I've been in every 12-step program that has an A on the end of it, because it has shown up in my money, it has shown up in my eating. I used to go to recovery meetings for food addiction, right?
Really?
And the friends that I had grown very close to in those meetings, they would tease me, a little bit. They'd see me coming through the door, and they'd say, fuck you, bitch, what are you doing in here?
Because I'm assuming you didn't have a problem with your weight.
I'm 110 pounds, right? And they'd be like, you bitch, right? But,
jeez, they say it like
in a loving way. We were kidding with each other, right? And I'd laugh and they'd laugh, But it wasn't funny because I was dealing with my own form of bulimia. And there wasn't nothing funny about that, right? And it was my own self-image issues and really my own self-loathing. And, the drinking was a form of self-loathing. Because when I heard this in a meeting one time, somebody said, it's not how much or how little we used or how often we used, but why we did. And what happened to us in mind, body, and spirit when we did.
Damn.
And I thought, whoo, shit, that's me. Because when I use, I do the kind of stuff that gets folks arrested. I do the kind of stuff that get folks run out of town, don't ever darken my door again, that gets folks fired, that gets, it wasn't just, let's have a good time and party. It was the kind of stuff, it's that inner. We started out talking about my outer life as a child looked Ozzie and Harriet until you pulled the curtain back, right? That inner unmanageability. Well, in my own drinking and drugging career, it was the inner unmanageability. It was why I was eating, why I was working as a workaholic, why I was at the gym alcoholically, why I couldn't just have one significant other. I had to date every damn boy in town. It was why. And it was because I did not like the way I felt in my own skin. And when I did that shit, I felt like all y'all look to me. See, all y'all out there in the world, you look a certain way to me. You look together. You look accomplished. You look confident. You look grounded. I don't have any of that left to my own devices, but if I drink over it, I do. If I drug over it, if I do. If I got the right guy on my arm, I do. If I got the right number of zeros in my bank account, I do. If I am in the right zip code with the right house. Hell, even my damn dog, my first dog, outside of family life, my dog. I couldn't just go to the pound and rescue a dog. Oh, hell no. I had to go get a pedigree dog from a breeder.
Damn.
So that when I'm at the park walking my dog, we look like something. Now I've been doing dog rescue 25 years, and I shudder to think that I once, had that belief system, because now I'm all about, please adopt, don't shop, please rescue. We're euthanizing tens of thousands in the shelter every month, right? Please.
Right.
But back then it was all about my image.
See, and there's something, and I wanted to, hop on this. I just wanted you to get your complete thought out. Thank you for being so open and transparent. I think that I go through a lot of what you're saying as well, because this is something that I'm going through right now personally that I'm struggling with. So, my weight had always been an issue in my life, and I think that because I kind of had a traumatic, childhood as well. You know what I mean? Just kind of grew up seeing some things that were just, kind of wild. So, I think that kind of stuck with me through childhood. Food was always my outlet to the point where I ate myself up to 486 pounds back in 2015.
Oh, honey.
So that's when I have weight loss surgery. At the time, I have the gastric sleeve, and so then at that time I couldn't eat the way that I wanted to.
Right.
So then that's when the drinking started. That's when I'm starting to drink a fifth, a night because I can't eat. But but I'm not solving the problem. And so then I go through all the different things with the alcohol. Now the alcohol's ruining my life. You know what I'm saying? So then I go to get sober again, and now it's been, 8 years since the surgery. Your stomach can grow back, you know what I mean? So now I go back to getting sober, and then I'm starting to pick back up the habits because now it's been 8 years. I can eat now, and that habit never really got addressed. I just cut my stomach, so you know what I mean? And so now it's like the alcohol never was a problem, and now it's like almost something that I'm white knuckling against, and it's and then it also goes to with different things like my career and wanting to be established or wanting to have certain women on my arm. And it's just like I don't know what it is, but what I'm starting to understand is that I'm not 100% comfortable with who I am, and that's just difficult to even say. Like as a grown 44-year-old man, and then trying to find self-love and self-value in yourself is so difficult. But I think when you say that, though, when you say it's the why thing, because I think sometimes we behavior spot, like how they even say in the bodybuilding world, you can't spot train, you can't just train for arms or abs, like you gotta work out your your whole body. And I think sometimes when we just try to behavior spot, we're not worried about, well, why am I doing that, though? Right. And I think I've been kind of hopping from addiction to addiction, from thing to thing, whether it's women, whether it's alcohol, whatever. So, no, thank you for saying that, because that really hit a nerve inside of me. Like, and I'm just really starting to finally realize that I got to find that self. I think that's the key, that self-love, or you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, because for me, and I can only speak for me, it's a soul malady. And my addiction is pretty plain and simple. I'm addicted to more, flat out. I used to go to parties, and you walk in the door, and people would say, "What do you do?" Well, hell, I don't know. What do you got? It just depends on what's available at the moment, and then more of it. And it doesn't even have to be a chemical substance. It can be a person. From my early 20s, and probably, if I'm honest, maybe into my early 30s. God, I hope that's not true, but it might be. Even in relationships, I didn't get into a relationship. I got into hostage taking because I wanted more. We go out, it feels good, we're kicking it, we're talking, we're vibing, our conversation is good.
Let's get married.
Let's get married.
Now.
Or at least hold each other hostage and, cut out on work for 3 or 4 weeks, while we... Ridiculous. Because I need more.
I'm the same way, like, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, like a lot of my relationships always go 0 to 100. And I don't know what that is about me. Like, I'll get with a woman, I'll be like, she's the one. I don't know why every woman has just automatically in my mind been the one. Like, you know what I mean? But I know I'm not going into it with a malice intention. I'm going into it just believing what, then, whatever, it always wears off. Like, you know what I mean? Because I went going into it, 100 miles an hour. But I think that addiction to more thing is kind of, I think that's a very, very true thing.
My Buddhist coach calls it hungry ghost grabbing. And when I think back, and I don't have as much of it going on inside of me today because I have spiritual practices. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I meditate. I do pray, or whatever word you want to put on that, because I have a conscious contact with some creative mind, intelligent, higher spirit. I don't know, man. There's something in this universe that it ain't me, and I can commune with it, and it gives me a sense of peace and ease and comfort that none of those substances or any of the people or the money or the status or the prestige that I chased with that hungry ghost grabbing attitude satiated or filled for me. But when I go within and I commune with that other energy, I get a little bit of it.
Right.
It's more satisfying for me when I do it in a group of others. I love doing a group meditation because it I feed collectively on the intention and the spiritual vibe that we're all putting out in that group than what I can get home alone in my little meditation room.
Right.
Can't explain that. Just collective consciousness, right? I need y'all. I need y'all. I need it, and I need that center inside me that I've come to know through the inner work I've done.
Right.
But I need y'all.
No, that definitely makes sense. So, at what point? So, your life, you're working, you're making good money, you're partying at the bars, you're drinking, you're having highs and lows.
Right.
This is going on 20s, mid 20s. At what point, or was there a particular instant, or was it what got you to the point where it was like, you know what, I need to stop doing what I'm doing?
Yeah, man, I'll never forget it. Actually, I was in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
And I had been trying to build a career with this new company that had hired me, and it was 3 years into it, and I was doing great. They were sending trainees from other parts of the southeastern United States that were in my district to train with me. I was doing great. What could possibly go wrong? Except my thinking. Because I suffered from what I now think of as imposter syndrome.
I've heard of this, and I think I do as well.
Outwardly. Clearly, outwardly, it was looking good. They were sending folks to me. You don't send folks to the employee that's at the bottom of your barrel. You send folks to the person that outwardly has it going on. My numbers were good. I was well received in the community. I was building respect among my peers and my prospects and my clients. But the drinking and the using that was going on at night was really interfering to the point that my judgment completely left me because nothing was satisfying that hole. Not the awards, not the accolades, not the prestige, not the money, not the friends, it wasn't satisfying the hole. And the more I drank and used, it wasn't satisfying the hole anymore either. And my dad had given me, sorry, but it was the 1970s in the South. What can I tell you? My dad had given me a .38 revolver when I left home at 17. It's the South. And he had trained me from 10 years old how to use firearms. Green Beret Special Forces dad, what can I tell you? We lived in the country, you know. He'd drink the Pabst Blue Ribbon cans all night long, and on Saturday morning we'd line them up on tree stumps, and we'd go out there with a rifle and a .38, and we'd knock them off and I was a pretty good shot.
You got a little shot?
I was a pretty good shot. And so he gave me that revolver, and he said, if you're going to live on your own, I want to know that you can protect yourself. I really don't recommend this, and I really don't subscribe to this as a way of life anymore. This was 40-some years ago. And, so here I am, alcoholic, drug addicted, going off to the city to live alone, armed. What could possibly go wrong? And so I kept that pistol in the nightstand drawer. And my drinking had progressed to a point where nothing that I did with substances or humans or any kind of behaviors or any kind of fantasy thinking helped me to take myself out of the self-loathing and the despondency and the depression that I continued to feel escalating on a daily basis. Nothing worked. And it got to the point where I could no longer drink and use drugs because of what it was doing to my body and what it was doing to me out in the community. They started to catch on. I'd started to wear too many mini skirts to too many parties in front of too many clients and do too many crazy ass things and say too many heinous things to other people in public that came back to haunt me. I just couldn't do it anymore. My reputation was now ruined. And I got to the point where emotionally, physically, and societally, I could no longer drink, but I couldn't not drink. And it was 3 a.m. one morning, and I was not drunk, but I was drunk on my own self-pity, my own victim consciousness, my own feelings that there was absolutely no way out or possibility mindset that I could put together in my finite thinking. And I went into that nightstand drawer and I pulled that pistol out and I loaded it and I stuck that .38 revolver in my mouth and I asked God for the strength to pull that trigger. And I was not kidding, and I was not drunk. And I did not ask for the strength to go get sober or to get God or to find Jesus or to find a peaceful way to live. I didn't ask for any of that. I asked for the strength to pull that trigger. And the strength did not come that night. And I hated myself for failing at that too. Okay. And the next night, some coworkers went out for a drink, and I thought, I'll go out for a couple of drinks, but just a couple, because this behavior I'm doing's got to stop.
Right.
Just a couple, and then I'm going to go home. And it was Friday night. And I had a couple drinks, which meant I was waiting for that lady to bring us a couple of drinks. And then I went to the bathroom, and I had a couple of something else, and went out and had a couple of more drinks, and we went to a different bar where I had a couple of more drinks.
It's a lot of drinks.
That was a lot of drinks. And I no longer order drinks at this stage in my life. I would go to the bartender and I would say, you see that glass behind you? And it would be one of those tall, skinny Tom Collins type glasses. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, take that glass and fill it with tequila. Charge me for however many shots. In fact, here's my credit card. Just start me a tab. And give me a Budweiser long neck to go along with it. Because I knew that tequila was going to be gone in a couple of minutes, and I wanted something to be able to hold in my hand and carry around, because I felt naked in a room full of people if I didn't have something in my hand. And it was a no-smoking bar. Oof. And that was just how we kicked the night off. We did a pub crawl.
This was the kickoff.
That was the kickoff. We did a pub crawl. So I'm on bar number 4, and I saw somebody come in that bar, look at me, see me drinking, see me in that state, and walk out. And it was somebody that I cared about what they thought about me. And so I decided that the smart thing to do was go chase that person down and explain, like you do when you're in a drunken stupor. So I got behind the wheel of my automobile, completely fucked up, and chased that other vehicle down A1A in Jacksonville, Florida, catching every single red light red. And if you know A1A, there's a light at every block pretty much.
Okay.
And I thought, I don't need to stop for red lights, because if I get T-boned, maybe it'll come quick, and what I could not do with that .38 revolver, maybe this automobile and another automobile can do it for me. Mm. And I would close my eyes at every intersection as I flew through at 110 miles an hour. I don't know where the cops were that night, but it was about 1 a.m. Maybe they were home. And I chased him all the way to his gated community of his country club estate where he lived, and the guard wouldn't let me in. Didn't call the cops.
What were you going to say if you caught up to her? What were you chasing him for? You just, in your drunken mind, had something to say?
It's not what it looks like. It's not what you think. And that guy meant nothing to me.
So you chase him all the way to his house. You can't get into his neighborhood.
Yep.
And then...
And the guard at the gate sent me home. Mm. And I don't remember how I got home. And I don't remember anything except the next day my coworker came to my house, and she said, I waited all night for you to get home because my car was in your driveway with my purse, with my keys, and you weren't there, and I had to go get a motel and yada, and never call me again, do not darken my door again. And my client had to bring her home. Oh, wow. So my client knew, my coworker knew, which meant the whole office was going to know, and they fired me the next business day. And so I left Jacksonville, Florida in a cloud of shame and went to live in a different city. But I went after calling a friend of mine that I knew had 17 years of recovery under his belt and said, can you please help me? And it was the first time in my adult life I had ever said to another living, breathing human being, can you help me? Because I knew without help I was going to kill somebody. I really didn't care if I killed me, but I got lucid enough that next morning to realize what I'd done that night before. It just came in little blips. I really didn't have a full memory. But in those little blips, I knew that if I'd have gone through that red light at 110 miles an hour, I could have killed somebody else. And I didn't care if I lived. But I wanted other people to be able to live their life. So he helped me. He helped me, and I have not had a drink or chemical substance since that day that I asked for help.
And that was 31 years ago?
February the 22nd of 1992.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how has life changed since February? You said February
22nd of
1992. How has life changed since flying down that A18 at 110?
Well, the first 6 months was hell because I wouldn't accept help. I went and asked for it, and then I wouldn't take it. So people tried to give it to me, and I would take the suggestions that they would give me but modify them. I'll go to a meeting, but I'm not going to participate in the meeting. Or I'll go to some meetings, but I'm not going to a meeting every day. Or I'll go to a meeting, but I won't work any of the work. Or I won't get a spot. I modified it. So I suffered a lot. And in my second year of sobriety, I got myself in a relationship, and I still had that gun in my nightstand drawer.
That old trusty 38.
Still had it.
You had it, okay.
And my mentor at the time said, I'm not going to continue to mentor you if you don't get rid of that firearm. And I really had reached the point at 2 years of sobriety where I knew I needed and wanted help, and I was willing to go to any length, and if I had to get rid of a firearm, I'd do that. And 6 months after I got rid of that firearm, I got into a domestic violence beef with that person in my home. And I had an out-of-body rageaholic, because I was a rageaholic then but didn't know it, experience where I saw myself leave my body. I saw myself hover from above and watch my body climb that staircase, walk down that hallway, make a right turn into the bedroom, open up that nightstand drawer, and go for my 38 because I was going to kill him. He'd put his hands on me for the last time and wrapped it around my throat and left a mark for the last time, and we were going to put an end to that shit. And I opened up that nightstand drawer, and I did not see a 38 revolver. I saw a Bible and some literature from the spiritual program that I practiced. And like having a rubber band snapped, I was no longer having an out-of-body experience watching myself. I was back into my body, and I collapsed onto my knees, and I cried. In a sobbing way that I don't think I'd cried since I was a child. Because I knew I was going to kill him. And it was only by the grace of a power greater than me that put that woman in my life that said, I'm not going to mentor you if you have a firearm.
And it was gone.
And the firearm was gone, and the spiritual literature was in the drawer instead.
Whew.
And I picked up the phone, and I called her, and I said, I need to see you, and I need to see you now, because I almost just killed somebody, and if it wasn't for you, he'd be dead, and I'd be in jail. And she said, come on down. And I met her at the Burger King on Route 6 in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and we had us a little conversation about God. And from that moment forward, I realized that I could not trust my own best thinking, and I was going to have to stop modifying this spiritual program of recovery and start doing what I was told. Because if I did what I wanted to do, the outward results were not going to benefit me or anybody else. And from that moment forward,
that had to be a life-changing event, I'm thinking.
Life-altering.
Just, out-of-body experience, seeing yourself, you know what I mean, and knowing that, I mean, like you said, you had this pistol for literally your whole life.
10 years, 12 years, yeah.
And you know what I'm saying, you get rid of it, and within 6 months you could have been put in a situation.
Right.
So I think when I hear about situations like that, like those are the situations where I know God is real. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just because it's stranger than coincidence. Like, it's not just
right.
You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that just doesn't. I've had too many times in my life where it's like if I would have made a left turn instead of a right, or if I would have left 5 minutes earlier, like, you know what I mean? Or, life just changes like that. So I'm glad that you took the advice of your advisor at that time, and you got that out of there.
It was the first thing that ever knocked the ego right out of me. I'd never been devoid of ego in my life. And that event scared me so badly that it just slapped the ego right out of me. Now, the ego came back pretty quickly afterwards. But by that point, I had made a deal with my innermost self that I was going to practice a way of life that was not led by ego, but was led by some spiritual collective consciousness that was greater than me, and that was coming through human beings, and I was going to let those human beings talk to me about that so that I could be led into some sort of a good, orderly direction, because I really wanted a new way of life that was going to have meaning for me and meaning for those others that would come in contact with me. And I was real clear that my life up to that point had no meaning. It was about the getting and the using and the ways and the means of getting and using some more, and that includes you, and I will use you the fuck up and throw you away like yesterday's garbage and go find me somebody else who can supply. And I'm not talking about supply with substances. Supply me with what it takes for me to feel good about myself, because I could not get that from the inside at that point in time. Now I do and can, but I was an empty shell masquerading as a human being.
Right. Well, no, and that's the thing. So to get 31 years of this, I mean, just, you know, kudos to you. That's just, you know, an amazing feat. Like how has your life and approach changed, you know what I'm saying, since that day? Like, do you, and what I mean by that is, do you ever get tempted? Like, is there ever times where, like, stress comes and does your mind still go back to, well, I could probably make this feel like, you know what I'm saying? Or does it go away after a certain amount of time, you think?
Yeah, man, that's a really valid question. I can only speak it from my own experience, because we all have very unique experiences, right? Personally, for me, in the first 3 years, I was tempted all the time, drove to the liquor store many, many times, and then realized, God damn it, it's Sunday and they're closed. Because I'd done most of my drinking in a beach town where you could get liquor 7 days a week, right? And so my automatic pilot would drive my happy ass to the liquor store only for it to be, you know, locked, or in the grocery store, black plastic hanging on that section of the shelving where the liquor would, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I was tempted many, many, many times, but then something shifted for me. After I had done enough of the inner work, something in me, something in my soul opened up. And when that happened, I was no longer tempted to look for outside chemical substances to change the way I felt. I would look for the people in my life that I knew were carrying this message, and they became my substance. I'd be feeling lower than whale shit about something, and I would call somebody like you, and I'd say, talk me off the ceiling, and you would talk to me about the principles, and you would give me encouragement, and you would help me get off of self-pity and get into good orderly direction, and together we would navigate our way through to some kind of emotional regulation and emotional, spiritual groundedness that I could go out and do what I had to do in the world that day.
Right.
At 31 years sober, though, I will tell you, I came up against a really painful set of circumstances recently, and I did not think about using. I did think about taking myself out.
Wow.
And I think it's because I don't know if I got another sobering up left in me. That shit's exhausting. So I really didn't think about using, but I thought about taking myself out. But I only thought about it, and I immediately called somebody that's in my spiritual circle, and I said, help me get back to my center, because I think that the only reason I was spared, because who am I? You know, I'm just a little girl from rural Georgia, but somehow I was spared a lot of heinous things. Maybe I'm here to possibly help others.
Right.
And so if that's the case, let me get out of my own sense of the impossibility mindset and get back into a possibility mindset. But I can't emotionally regulate that on my own when I'm at that depth of despair. But I can call somebody like you, and I can listen to the experience that you have, the strength that you have, the hope that you've got. Or I can call my Buddhist coach, and she can force me into feeling honest again and open-minded again and willing again to listen to the truth of those principles and get out of that fake truth in my brain that says it's painful, it's always going to be painful. In fact, it's only ever going to get more painful. It's going to be like this forever. There will never be a reprieve. So we might as well just not be here anymore. That's not true.
I've been having to learn how to, you know, have that conversation with myself. And that was another reason, too, why it was important for me to stop drinking. I never really, you know, had the, you know, thoughts of taking myself out too much, like, you know, in life. But then I would notice, like, if I would drink and kind of go into a dark place, I would get those thoughts, like, you know what I mean? Right. And then, like, they would be so intense, like, to the point where, even at sober moments, I still kind of every now and again like it'll kind of hit, but then I'll have to just kind of be like, these thoughts are just like waves. Like I just look at it like an ocean.
Waves.
Like the waves are coming right now. They're not going to be like this forever.
Right.
Chill out. It's not nearly as bad as it thinks. Like as it seems right now. You know what I mean? Because those are scary moments. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've had some pretty dark moments, and I'm just now learning how to deal with it and to surround myself with a circle of people that if in those moments that I can call and say, hey, going through some shit. What can we talk about? But see, I'm still in the zone too, to where I still have the cravings for alcohol sometimes. Like I still have the moments where I'm just like, I want to be normal because all the normal people are drinking and sober people have no fun. And I wanted to talk to you about this and get your honest opinion on this, because I talk to people with varied links to sobriety, and everybody kind of, has their different take on it. But, I definitely value your seniority in the sobriety game. I want to know, what are your thoughts on California sober? And what California sober to me is, my issue was always with alcohol. Never had a problem with smoking weed. Weed was never a thing to me. Like I never made poor decisions smoking. If anything, I made poor dietary decisions, like, and it made me go to sleep, but never on some smoking, getting in trouble type. It was never that. So, to me, what I'm saying, like I still smoke. Like I just feel like, okay, I'm sober from alcohol though. But some people will say, no, if you're going to be sober, you need to be sober from all mind altering substances. What are your thoughts on the California sober idealization?
Yeah, and everybody has to know their own truth, right? So I can only speak, as you just gave me the permission to do, I can only speak from my own truth. For me, I classify myself as being a very low bottom, hope to die addict. And I classify my bottom as low not because of what the external circumstances, because I never slept under a bridge. I never killed anybody. I never, there's a lot of these nevers, right? But it was the emotional and spiritual bottom that was so low for me. I needed to be able to connect to some sort of creative intelligence, infinite mind, spirit, higher power that I could internalize, embody, become one with, connect with, and allow it to fuel that small, still inner voice that I call my intuition, that I call the small, still voice of God. I needed to be able to connect with that in order to get the right kind of guidance to just be able to get through a day. For me, prayer and meditation, scripting, journaling, some of the manifesting principles, some of the mentors that I use, the things that I read, what I educate myself with, fills that for me. And when I take a chemical substance like weed, it pops me into that wonderful vortex, but it pops me in. So I always need it to get in. And I can pop right back out through no fault of my own or control of my own or whatever. And so I have this good friend that says, it's like being a plastic bag blowing in the wind. If the wind's blowing over here, that's where I'm going. The wind's blowing over here, going over here. For me, I can't function like that. I need a strong, authentic core. I need a strong sense of self and who I am. I need to be able to go within and find that on the days that I need to go in, or the moments. Sometimes it's 5 minutes at a time doing life on life's terms. If I'm relying on weed, and there's nothing wrong with weed, it's an herb. God gave it to us on this earth, and it serves its purpose. But for me, if I'm using it to affect the kind of change that I need to be in communion with my creative intelligence, infinite mind, I got a problem. And there will probably come a day, because it is chemical, and my body reacts to chemicals, when I'm going to need more of it more often, or they're going to have to genetically engineer a stronger strain of it, or something.
Because you're addicted to more.
Because I'm addicted to more. And I really want to be grounded. And all right, so I'm going to get a little crazy and hippy-dippy woo-woo now. I did spend 12 years in Berkeley, so I come by it honestly. I did spend many years living next to an ashram so that I could find deeper ways to go within.
What's an ashram?
It is a meditation temple where monks are in residence, and you can learn there. You can go in community and learn from each other. You can learn the teachings, but I would go and do anywhere from 1 hour to 8 hours of meditation at a time, not every day now, on special focused intensive events. And I really learned how to go within and get that conscious contact, right? So for me, I have a strong sense of intuition today that I did not have when I was, as a friend of ours, Bill, would say, when we were taking those chemical substances, we were cutting ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. My body is clean of those substances now. So the sunlight of the spirit, that for me, you know, I can download that and it comes in me, through me, and as me, and can go out and hopefully maybe touch another, that they can hear my story and go, I thought like that, I felt like that, I believed like that, I did those things. Can you come and talk with me, and maybe together we can find our way back onto a path? For me, spirit works in me, through me, and as me, and works in you and through you and as you, and in you and through you and as you and you. And that makes us all gods with skin on, and we can help each other. And for me, when I'm clogging that channel up, it's blocking that ability to be able to go and show up and do the absolute best work that I can for the universe today. And I really think I came to this planet to help all living, but I do animal rescue. I believe that I'm here to help animals. I'm here to help other sentient beings, whether they have fur or skin or whatever they have. And I want to be a clear channel to be able to do that good work. Now that's just the crazy hippie in me. If weed is working for you, rock on.
Right, right. I just always, and I kind of feel like, cause I'm just at the space now where I'm just like, I'm really trying to address my why. I think I'm at that space in my life. Like, why am I doing this? Because I still obviously am going to different things to cope with different things. So even now, like, I'm kind of back to overeating. I'm back to, maybe now I'm smoking a little bit more than I was, when I was drinking. But now it's all in the realm of I don't want to drink. But at the same time, when I was in rehab, they don't let you do anything.
Right.
So I'm almost like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So when I went to rehab 2 times. Once I went for 15 days and then they got raided by the FBI. And then I came back out. I thought that was a sign that I should keep drinking. So I went back to drinking soon after.
It's a sign of something.
And then 6 months later, I end up going back and I do the 30 days. Subsequently had 939 days of sobriety, which I lost in 2020. But I say all that to say, I don't know, I'm just kind of mixed, on how I feel about it. But I don't know, I feel like I'll just keep praying and, meditating on it. And I'll figure I'll come to the right space about that. What type of stuff do you do now to have fun as a sober person? I mean, because I know you were living the life, going to the littest, bar, and living that life. Like, what are some of the things you do now to kind of make, what's a lit night for you now?
And looking back on it now, I can easily say all those pub crawls that we did, all that bar hopping, all that up in the club. I mean, we used to be dancing on the speakers at the Limelight and the ATL, just thinking that we were just the shit in the 80s, and I thought that was fun. And maybe it was for my finite consciousness at that time. Looking back on it now, that doesn't seem fun to me, although I love music and I love dancing, and that is one of the things that I do. Fun for me now is people, but the right kind of people. They say your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So the folks that I used to drink, and let me just tell you something, I started out drinking in the fancy white collar places. I ended up drinking in some bucket of blood, drinking hole dive bars with bikers and shit. It was not all fancy and white collar and fun and games, and that just is not fun to me anymore. But being with the right kind of people, the people that make me feel high, even when there's no chemical substances in the room, getting our laugh on, just sitting around and enjoying the soul and the spirit of each other, and where you're talking with one another and it feels like 15 minutes and you look at your watch and you go, son of a bitch, it's 2 hours, I got to go. But it's just on and popping because those are your people. And whether it's recreationally, because you came over for dinner and we had a potluck and a bunch of people are over at the house and we kicking it and we having fun, or whether it's because we've gotten together as a group and we've gone to some function to suit up and show up to be there for others who are trying to get well and we're having fun through that. Or whether it's, going out to an amazing place here in Los Angeles. We got some amazing places here in LA. And to go and enjoy all that has to offer us, right? Being able to experience joy with the people that I feel some kind of love for is what lights me up. And I don't care if we're in the park or, if we're in some $500 a plate. Being with spiritual beings that are having a human experience with me, right along. And I'm not talking about pious and religious. I'm just talking about our vibe is the same. And your people when you meet them and you want more.
We're addicted to that.
Of them, but without hostage taking.
Right. Well, I definitely appreciate you for taking time out of your day and coming in and talking with us over here at Sober Saturdays.
You.
What is your message to the alcoholics that's struggling out there? If they want to maybe turn their life around, if they maybe feel that they've hit that proverbial rock bottom, what's some advice that you could give to somebody that maybe wants to change their life and give up the sauce?
God, no pressure there. Honestly, though, two things. Number one, don't believe your thoughts. Don't believe your thinking. My best thinking put every drink and every drug in me, and every bad situation, every bad decision that got me every bad kind of outcome. That was my thinking that did that. So number two, if I'm not going to believe my own thinking, put yourself in a room with some folks that might have something that you want. Maybe it's sobriety, maybe it's spiritual easefulness, maybe it's just some sense of being comfortable in their own skin. Ask them how they did it and ask for the help. Can they help you achieve what they've achieved? And if that means a room with other folks, like a 12-step room, do that. But do something that has you get out of yourself and get with other folks.
There we go. Well, thank you for that. Where can the people find you at? I mean, is there any place where people can find you at so they can hear more of some of the stuff you got going on? I know you got some pretty exciting things that you've been doing and working on. Where can the people find you at?
There are things in the works for social media right now. The platform would be reginascott.net. And from that, you'll find the links to the other stuff, which is the stuff that's soon to be launched. But reginascott.net.
Make sure you tune in. Thank you so much for coming and blessing us with your time and your story.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. I have been your boy, DoBoy. This has been Regina Scott, and this has been another installment of Sober Saturdays. Check you next time. Peace.